Welcome to Seas of Change's next episode of OceanViews. We are so excited to welcome our next guest, Natalie, or Nat. Nat, could you please introduce yourself and just tell us a little about what you do?
All right. Hi, I'm Nat. I am currently a film student studying a Bachelor of Arts here in Australia. I'm also on the board of directors for the Cave Divers Association, and I'm part of the volunteer team for Envoy Shark Call, which was an Australian film made trying to get the shark nets out and off the beaches in Australia. That sort of sums it up. That's the main thing I do.
Well, it's very exciting stuff. Obviously, you get to use your work in school with film and everything as part of your work on the documentary for cave diving, but obviously it's a lot. So how do you balance, that sort of work and / school kind of vibe?
That's a good question. I don't know that I do. I don't know that I do it very well. I certainly know people who do it a lot better. I tend to not do all that much during semesters. So when I've got a semester on, I don't, as much as I'd like to take the weekends away and go diving and go do all these things, I tend to just stay at home and just focus on that a little bit. Whether I, do all that much when I'm here, different question, but I pretty much just separate it into on uni and off uni because it's just too much to keep up with. Otherwise, you want a little break when you're doing uni, and you want a break from doing all the other work when you're doing that at the moment. So I think just separate time. Don't do it all at once.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I think trying to balance everything, it's really good to separate them and have that healthy balance so you can do both to like the best of your ability, I guess. Otherwise, it's really easy to just burn out if you try and do it all at once. So how did you first get started in environmental activism?
I genuinely do not remember. I think just before we moved from Uzbekistan to Australia, I'd always wanted to go diving because my dad had gotten to do it when we were in the Maldives when I was really young, when I obviously couldn't because I don't remember that. But when we were in Australia on holiday back in 2015, he got to do the Great Barrier Reef and stuff, and we didn't have enough time for me to get diving, but I did get to go snorkeling, and it was just so brilliant and cool, and I just wanted to go diving. And then early 2017, I got my first certification to go scuba diving, and then when I moved back to Australia, I really picked it up, went diving. The second or third year we were here, and then just kept doing it. Started volunteering with Sea Shepherd, started taking pictures, started seeing, shark populations decline and stuff and things you would see all the time, and suddenly you didn't anymore. And it was such a quick switch. So I think just by being a diver, I've never met a diver who isn't also to some degree involved in environmental things.
For sure. And I think you divers really just get that first-hand experience of the effects of, climate change or plastic pollution. So I definitely think that diving would have had a really big impact on your environmental conservation kind of start. But has when you've grown up impacted it as well? You've kind of mentioned the Great Barrier Reef a little bit here and there, and maybe moving.
Well, when I saw the Great Barrier Reef back in 2015, it was still like there was still a reef, there was still an alive reef, right? But now in the last 2-3 years, everyone who's been there, I haven't been, I plan on going soon, hopefully. But everyone who's been out there recently has just said it's just dead. It's just all bleached out and everything. And having gone to Fiji for a little while, and you get down there and it's all dead coral. I lived in Germany until I was 11, and I don't really remember all that much about it. But in the sort of growing up that I do remember, having lived in Uzbekistan, which is a double landlocked country, you don't see any of the impact on the oceans. But what you do see is they have 2 main rivers, and all of that's being used and diverted. And so the Aral Sea, which is a huge lake that used to be massive and a source of food and everything for lots and lots of people. As the rivers have run drier and drier, the lake's dried up so much that there's kilometers of shipwrecks and stuff just in its desert now. And so that's sort of the main impact you see there. But I wouldn't say that I got invested in the ocean until I moved somewhere where it was at least relatively close. Because double landlocked there's 2 countries in the world that are double landlocked, and living in one of them, you don't even, you notice it, but it's not an immediate impact that you have because you don't get to look at it every day.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I guess it's clear that being near the ocean or somewhere close to the ocean, it definitely has an impact on perception and like how invested you get into environmental conservation. So with your diving and obviously with uni as well and your balance between the two, do you have anything upcoming or current projects that you're working on that you'd like to share?
Heaps. So I'm at the moment producing 2 films and directing a third. So it's a really busy semester, perhaps a little bit too busy, but I'm really excited about it. So I'm doing those 3 films with just the teams at uni, the other students and stuff, all of whom are really, really, amazing at what they do. So that's really great. What else am I doing? I've just come back a month ago from the Nullarbor. So we went cave diving there, just really, really cool. Spent a month out there. The first week we were there, we had a fella named Ash with us who was shooting a documentary series for the ABC here. So we'll be on that, and it'll hopefully air in January, early January next year. I'm going to keep an eye out for that and, update as we know more. But that's about the way of water around Australia. That just happened to be one episode of it. So I think that'll be really cool. I was also hoping to do a Nullarbor focused documentary about the cave diving there, which I'm writing on and doing my work on. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it'll happen. I hope it will, because it's really spectacular out there and you're in the desert and you're going cave dive. It's so cool. And then hopefully I just get to, so I'm doing my paragliding pilot's license. And so as soon as that's done, I just hope to go out flying more and get just cool shots and cool videos and do some stuff with that. I'm not sure what yet. Yeah, we've kayaked around the lake and the rivers here and picked up, trash and stuff. And we hauled, kayak loads full. So we've done that. There's only a certain degree to which you can do that, especially on your own, because you've got to get into these things and stuff. And so a little bit less, environment related, but still really fun and cool because you're learning about the winds and stuff and in the sky and which is totally irrelevant. I just think it's really cool.
Thank you so much for sharing. Everything you've listed sounds super cool, like working on so many films and working on that documentary or writing about your novel cave diving experiences. I think that would be really cool, and I really hope you can end up producing something like that. So thank you for sharing those. Working on all of these things, what have been some challenges you've faced, and what have you learned from these and overcome them?
The biggest problem is time. It's always going to me at least, it's always going to be time, because you want to do so many things and you also want to have a little bit of time for yourself, and you don't want to just sit at your desk all day and be doing all this stuff. And once you start doing things, as soon as I became one of the directors at the Cave Divers Association, I swear my phone's never rung so much. And the more invested you are in it, the more it eats up your time, because you want to do a good job. And then if you've got 5 different things taking up all that time, it all eats away at your time. And how do you prioritize it? How do you go, well, this is more important, when it's all got some level of importance? I did some editing recently for this Envoy film for their social media, because the shark nets are going back in New South Wales beaches tomorrow at time of recording, so 1st of September. And we were trying really desperately to push in the last 2 months to stop that. And so that was a big social media push, and it sort of had to take a backseat to all this Nullarbor prep and stuff, but suddenly I needed to do it all at the same time. And then and sometimes you have those situations where it needs to be done now, and then everything else takes a backseat to it. It's difficult. I think it's personal and what you prioritize, but sometimes I don't think you can.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think it really does come up to prioritization, because with this sphere, I feel like everything that we do adds up and is important, and it's so hard to just pick one thing to focus on, but then that might just be the way to do it because you want to do a good job on that one thing at that one time. But kind of on the flip side of all these challenges that we're mentioning, what has been your proudest moment or memory so far?
Ooh, this is a good one, because there's so many different things. I was really proud of myself when I did get all that editing done in that short amount of time. I was really proud of myself for making it through this Nullarbor trip with no major dramas, because we certainly expected it to be this hugely challenging thing, and it was, but we all coped a lot better. My dive shop, which I had no part in, at least not to a major degree, I suppose, they're now doing weekly, I think it's weekly, but they're doing cleanups quite regularly. They're free for everyone to attend, and they've been pulling a huge amount of trash out of the ocean. So that's really cool to see. So because I just recently became part of the board of directors, or the national committee, we call it, of the Cave Divers Association, and I'm young, I'm 20. It's not something that 20-year-olds do. So I work with lots of people who are, 50 plus years old. There's 5 of us. The response has been really, really positive, and everyone who does get help through that has been really thankful. And it's such a little thing, because it's generally pretty thankless role, but just interacting with people and getting a little bit of positive reassurance is always good. So that's always a nice one.
Yeah, definitely when you're working in this industry and you're a young person, it's definitely tough, and it takes a while to, get some sort of positive feedback from older people. So that's amazing that, you're working small group, but like a big organization, pretty important and pretty big role, and you're actually getting that, positive reinforcement. And kind of goes to that, in your opinion, how powerful do you believe the voices of youth are, and what would be your advice to aspiring youth?
The generation now is so hugely powerful in every way that you look at it, in the job market, in politics, in conservation. Everything you see, like Gen Z and the younger generation, everything you see them do has been so incredible. These younger people, they're not letting anybody step on their toes. They're not letting anybody just trample all over them. And it's making such a huge difference socially and in conservation, because as more and more of us are, eligible to vote, eligible to go and do these jobs in politics and all these things, there's more and more pressure on older people to either be doing something or step aside. And it's been so fantastic to see, particularly socially, because, there's a lot that's happened recently, as we all know, particularly in the US. There have been some civil rights reductions, and it sort of makes you think, well, what's the point of saving everything if people aren't going to be benefiting from it? Sure, our ocean lives, but women don't have rights anymore. What's the point? If it's not good for everyone, that's at least that's the way, because being a filmmaker, people are my people. As much as I love the environment, it's people that are the key to everything, I think, at least in the way our society is set up. And so if not everyone is being uplifted a little bit, being given opportunities, what's the point if that's not happening? And so we're seeing this huge change socially. Employers being held accountable, companies being pushed towards accountability, although that's not quite happening. And it's young people who are driving that change. It wouldn't be happening without them. It's a team effort. There's absolutely no point in trying to do it on your own, burning yourself out, because as much as everyone says everyone can make a difference, we make a difference when it's everybody trying to make a difference, and everybody trying to make the same little part of that difference, and it adds up so quickly. And that would be my advice. Do not do it alone. Find someone to connect to, whether that be someone you know or whether you just reach out on via email, via social media. We have all these communication avenues now that have been even more built out since we had a pandemic, and use it, because that's how we make that difference. And that comes from filmmaking too. You can't do it on your own. You need a team. Diving, cave diving, it's a team thing. Paragliding at this point, while you're a solo pilot, it's a team thing. You don't even go and take off unless someone concurs with you, at my level anyway, that it's safe and good to do. It's a team thing. It should be a team thing.
For sure. And I think that advice is extremely helpful. I think that this whole generation really is just joining hands to make change. I think as individuals, we definitely have less power, but as a group, we have that really revolutionary kind of voice as part of this generation. Yeah.
Gen Z is saying we, not me.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the
and
big
I think,
difference.
and what you mentioned before with how it kind of is a shame that we're putting people over anything else. But I think that really is what gets people to kind of look at what we need to do, is that, oh, it affects you. It actually does affect you. And these are people that are being affected by it. I think that humans are inherently selfish, and unfortunately that we just got to use it for change. But thank you so much for being here with us today. That was our last question. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
Not a problem at all.